My name is Patrick Lowe. I'm the Vice President of Research at the Fung Global Institute in Hong Kong. The preferential agreements can achieve a considerable amount in terms of opening trade amongst the parties to those agreements, but they are of benefit primarily to the parties. I think the objective is to ensure that as far as possible these agreements are mutually supporting, that they do not undermine the fabric of the multilateral trading system. Of course, this is a big ask because there are many reasons why these preferential agreements exist in the first place. And one of them, no doubt, is that the WTO has not been hugely successful in the last decade or more in achieving much by way of negotiations to change trade rules to open up trade. It's also a question of level of ambition. I think most of these agreements are trying to achieve a bit more by way of economic integration than has been possible in the WTO. If it were possible to start to think constructively about bringing these into the WTO, or at least multilateralizing some aspects of them, I think we would be on a very positive road. The WTO recently had a success in its negotiations in Bali. If we can move that in a direction which allows the regional agreements and the preferential agreements to see some benefits in integration, then we could start a process of trying to multilateralize these. The core of the problem is in sorting out the geopolitical underpinnings of trade rivalry, which are making it harder to cooperate on trade. If you put too much geopolitics into a trade agreement, you won't have a very good trade agreement. The global trading system is running considerable risks. It doesn't recognize that the WTO itself, in some sense, is the mothership of international trade relations. And when these countries go off and make their preferential agreements, in the back of their minds they always have the idea that the WTO is there, that the WTO is the base, that the WTO lives on. Well, it might not live on if it's neglected for long enough. So I think there is a real imperative in getting down to business in a multilateral setting and making it work. The hallmark of the multilateral trading system is that they have done things by consensus. Well, there are significant advantages to that. But at the same time, there are real costs because it can slow down decision-making. It can make room for countries to behave opportunistically and cynically, using their power to prevent things from happening in order to get unrelated things that they want. So I think all these things haven't made it easy to do business. And there are some people who think that one of the things that the WTO needs to do in order to be able to do business better is to revisit that consensus rule. It would need to be in ways that do not allow a small group of countries to do bad things to the rest. But at the same time, if we could find a way of preventing countries from slowing the pace down for reasons that don't have a lot to do with trade, then I think we would be making progress.